So, after nearly a decade hiding in the shadows, the Four Horsemen are back. The Now You See Me franchise has returned with a third movie, one that, let's be honest, a lot of us thought was never going to happen. I mean, it's been a long time and the whole world of movies has completely changed. So let's dive right in and see if they managed to pull off their biggest trick yet, making a great comeback.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? These legacy sequels are just so tough to get right. You know, for every Top Gun Maverick that just knocks it out of the park, you get a dozen others that totally crash and burn. When you wait almost 10 years, people's expectations change, that original spark can be hard to find again, and the risk of it being a huge letdown is, well, it's massive. So that's the big question here. Could this movie beat the odds and make us believe in magic again?
All right, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we're going to talk about that decade-long wait and what that really means. Then, we'll get right to the verdict, which is pretty surprising. After that, we'll look at the magic that really worked and maybe where the misdirection didn't quite land. And to wrap it all up, we'll figure out where this new movie fits by ranking the entire trilogy.
So let's really set the stage here. That gap between movies wasn't just a little break. It was a long, long silence that had a lot of us thinking the show was just over. And trying to bring a franchise back after that much time, that is a huge challenge.
Okay, so right off the bat, the first big surprise, and this is a huge plus, that got the band back together. I mean, in today's world, getting everyone's schedules to line up is basically impossible. So seeing Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Dave Franco, all of them was awesome. But seriously, the real magic trick here was getting Isla Fisher back. She was so important to that first film, and her coming back showed that they were serious about honoring the whole story.
And this slide, man, it really just lays it all out for you, doesn't it? Look at that gap. 2013 to 2016. Yeah, that's a pretty standard 3 years. But 2016 to 2025? That's almost a full decade. Just stop and think for a second about how much movies have changed in that time. The streaming wars, cinematic universes becoming the default, a standalone, stylish thriller like the first movie has become a real rarity. The pressure wasn't just to be a good movie, it was to feel relevant in a totally different Hollywood.
And let's be real, history is not on their side. Most of the time, these sequels that take forever to come out just fail. They can't recapture that lightning in a bottle. Sometimes it feels like they're just trying to cash in on nostalgia without really getting what made the original so special in the first place. Yeah, the odds were they were not in its favor. Not at all.
So, after all that buildup, all that skepticism, what was the big reveal? Did the trick work? Let's pull back the curtain, because the final verdict might just be the most surprising twist in the whole series. And there you have it. Against all the odds, it actually delivered. Somehow, it broke the curse of the legacy sequel. It wasn't some tired rehash that makes you wish they'd just left it alone. Nope. It turned out to be a really satisfying and super entertaining movie. The magic wasn't gone, it was just waiting in the wings for the right moment.
And a huge part of why it works so well is that it just feels right. It's got that slick, fast-paced, stylishly fun vibe of the originals. And maybe that feels like a breath of fresh air right now. In a world of gritty blockbusters that feel like homework, this movie just remembered to be a fun, self-contained spectacle. And it turns out that's a spirit we were all ready to see again.
All right, so we've established it was good. But why was it good? What were the actual ingredients that made this whole thing come together so well? Let's break down the mechanics of this successful trick. It really boils down to 4 key things. First, like we said, getting the whole cast back gave it that chemistry you just can't fake. Second, they wrote a fantastic new villain who actually felt like a real threat. Third, the director, Ruben Fleischer, brought this fresh, perfect energy to it. And finally, and for this series, this is absolutely crucial, it had a final twist that was genuinely surprising and made you rethink everything.
Okay, now this was really clever. Something that could have been a total mess. You have Isla Fisher from the first film and Lizzie Kaplan, who was great in the second. Instead of picking one over the other or creating some awkward rivalry, they brought them both back. It was this brilliant move that showed a ton of respect for the franchise's history, and it actually made the whole team feel stronger and more complete.
You know the saying, right? A story is only as good as its villain. And wow, did they hit a home run here. The character of Veronica, played by the amazing Rosamund Pike, wasn't just some generic bad guy. They wrote her to be smart, intimidating, and her motivations actually made sense in this world. She wasn't trying to take over the world. She was playing a 4D chess match with the Horsemen, and that made her the perfect opponent. It was a great part, and it made the whole movie better. And bringing in Ruben Fleischer to direct, another genius move.
Why? Well, he'd already made the Zombieland movies with Jesse Eisenberg and Woody Harrelson. He already knew how to mix action, comedy, and that ensemble vibe with them. That existing relationship, that creative shorthand they already had, it totally paid off. The chemistry just felt natural and easy from the jump.
But hey, no trick is ever completely flawless, right? Even the best magicians have a moment where you can kind of see what they're doing. So to keep things balanced, let's take a look at the parts of the film where the sleight of hand was a little shaky.
Really, there were three things that kind of stood out. First, the movie spends a lot of time at the beginning on a whole new set of characters. Because of that, our original horsemen feel a little sidelined at first. And finally, the way they wrapped up Morgan Freeman's character arc just, well, for some, it didn't quite have the punch you'd expect after 3 movies.
So let's talk about that first point, because it's probably the biggest hurdle the movie had to clear. They introduced 3 new magicians, and these characters take up so much time in the first act that for a good 30, maybe 40 minutes, you're kind of wondering if you're watching the right movie. It honestly feels like you're watching a pilot for a spin-off, and then the original cast shows up to get things back on track. It was a risky move that definitely tests your patience a bit.
And that gets you thinking, right? It's the classic problem with these kinds of sequels. How do you balance the new characters with the old ones? You've got to introduce new people to keep things fresh, maybe set up the future. But we all bought a ticket to see the original crew. And for a little while there at the start, it felt like the original Horsemen were guest stars in their own movie.
Okay, so we've looked at the good, we've looked at the not so good. Where does this movie actually fit in with the others? To really get the full picture, we've got to look at the whole trilogy and see where this new chapter lands. But before we get to the ranking, you got to know this one really interesting tidbit about the franchise, because it explains a lot. Every single movie has had a different director. That's pretty rare, and it means each film has its own unique style and feel. Louis Leterrier gave the first one that kinetic action movie vibe. John M. Chu made the second one feel glossier. And Ruben Fleischer brought his talent for comedy and ensemble action. That's so key to understanding why they're all so different.
So if you lay it all out, this is how it shakes out. The first film from 2013, that's still the king. It just had that amazing big screen cinematic feel that set the bar super high. The second movie is usually seen as the weakest of the bunch. A lot of people felt it looked more like a TV movie. And that puts our new film right here as a really strong return and a worthy follow-up to that great original.
And this chart, it just makes it crystal clear. If Part 1 is the gold standard way up here, Part 3 is right behind it, which is a massive leap in quality from Part 2. So the main takeaway here is that Now You See Me 3 wasn't just not bad, it actively made the whole trilogy better. It corrected the course after the second one and really solidified the franchise's place.
But I want to wrap up this ranking with a really important point. Even though there's a clear winner, none of these movies are actually bad. The whole trilogy is fun, it's solid entertainment. Honestly, watching all 3 in a row is a great time. Seeing how the story and the styles change from movie to movie is part of the charm. It's just a consistently fun series.
So, I'm going to leave you with a couple of questions. Now You See Me 3 proved that sometimes, against all the odds, you can recapture that magic. So what's your favorite film in this series? And more importantly, what other movie from the 2010s do you think is just waiting to pull off a comeback trick of its own? Let us know what you think.